Hello, welcome back to another video. I hope you're doing really well. Today I thought I could share my 18-month review of living in Dubai as I'm actually leaving this week, which I have so many emotions about. I don't quite know how I feel right in this second, but it feels like 2 minutes ago since I actually moved here, and I thought it'd be really good to put a video together where I just share all the sort of pros, cons, and then just share things that I really wish I knew before I moved here, just as a little bit of background in case you don't already know. So I was coming here quite regularly since 2018. I spent about 3 or 4 months in Dubai in 2020, and before that I was obviously living in the UK. And then I lived in Spain when I was 19 for like a summer, and I've always wanted to try living abroad and didn't quite know where, but I always wanted to live in a hotter country and like right by the beach. So that's been a dream of mine, and since then in 2020 and the years prior to that, I've set my business up in a way which I'm so grateful for every single day, where I can work predominantly remotely, like a lot of us can probably since 2020 as well. So it got to the point where I just thought there is nothing stopping me. I don't need to be in the UK right at this moment. So I thought, why not just go for it? I wasn't 100% sure on Dubai, but my partner and I said it makes a lot of sense because of the reasons that I will go through in a second to come to Dubai. But we sort of said, oh, maybe we'll travel from Dubai, get to Australia and the US and kind of just go from there. So that was the main reason. And I really liked how things were set up in Dubai in terms of it's like city life as well as you've got the beach life, and it's also an amazing place to network and meet like-minded entrepreneurs and whatnot. So that made a lot of sense, and also a lot of my friends come here quite regularly, so I just thought, yeah, let's try that. And because we'd come so much over the years, it felt already like a bit of a second home, and I felt quite comfortable in that sense. But I definitely, when I look back now, I don't think I knew how much a big thing it was moving country when it comes to sort of having a whole new support system that you want to build in a new country and just lots of other stuff. I'll start with the actual moving process. So for me, that meant packing up all my stuff in the UK, selling all my furniture and finishing the tenancy in the house that we had been renting for a long time, that really felt like my first proper home that I was so attached to looking back. So that was the first step. And then when we came here, we stayed in Airbnbs, which I would always recommend before you decide on, say, an area that you want to start a long-term, like a year tenancy in Dubai in, if that makes sense. So the first step was getting a visa for work. So we went with the remote working visa. So you obviously, when you enter Dubai, you're on a tourist visa. I don't know off the top of my head how many days you get with that. So when I rang up a few months back to see if they still did that, they've changed it now. And that's the first thing to mention. I feel like in Dubai, they can change things quite quickly, but that's the one that we initially got. That's quite a lengthy process, a lot of documents like anything getting a visa. And then in order to get an apartment here, you need to be a resident. So you need to get your Emirates ID. So that was another process. So to get your residency, you've got to go through getting your biometrics, your blood test. I do feel like in hindsight, the way we went about that was probably the longest way possible. I feel like we did it manually when I think you can find like a reputable service provider that they run you through that whole process. But it all depends on how you're planning to come here. Say if you've got your own business and you want to set up your business in Dubai, then it might be different to someone if you're coming here for a job. So I don't want to give too much information because I don't know the ins and outs of everything. And then the next step was to get bank accounts set up. I went with ADCB. I got a personal bank account with them. That took a little while, and that was a lot of back and forth, but not too bad of a process, and that's been absolutely fine. I feel like I've spent a lot of time in typing offices and just going to so many different locations trying to get all this sorted and set up. And then the other thing was, in order to rent a car here, which I'll mention later on about cars, you can use your UK license, but you need to convert it to a UAE license. So I didn't need to do another test or anything here. So that was the actual moving process. I guess to move into any country, it's just learning the ins and outs. I found Brits in Dubai, the Facebook group, super helpful to get information from on there, and obviously just Googling stuff because it was all unknown. And everyone's scenario of moving abroad is probably just so different, so it's quite hard to go off like the way one person has done something. Next thing is one of my favorite things about Dubai, which is the gyms and the abundance of gyms there are. It is literally insane. I feel like there's always new ones open up, and they're super high end. They've got the most amazing equipment, and because there's so much variety, I feel like there's something for everyone. If you're more of a bodybuilder kind of trainer, then you've got your Binus gym or TKMMA, which tends to be more sort of bodybuilder style, and there's just so many different types of gyms, loads of really cool studios for Pilates classes, literally endless. I don't think think I've ever been anywhere like it in my life that has so much choice and variety of gyms. And I wanted to mention I got this gym membership called Privily, which is like an app. It is a little bit pricey, but sometimes they'll have deals on where you can get a slight discount. But with this Privily membership, you get access to loads of different gyms, not all of them of course, but there's a massive variety and they always seem to be updating it. You also get beach club access, so you can go to like Kapinski on there, loads of really cool beach clubs are on there, and then you also get like 20% off at these places as well, so that is really cool. I feel like in Dubai as well, the gym vibe is just super friendly here, and met so many friends just through the gyms alone, which I think is something that is just super nice. Next thing is food shopping and grocery shopping in general. So in Dubai, that is definitely something that's more expensive, and I have really noticed that. So things like, you know, things that you love like Heinz tomato ketchup that I just feel like tastes completely different to any other ketchup, you definitely pay a premium for here, obviously because things are imported here and it's not made and produced here. Like this tiny tomato ketchup thing is like £4, when obviously in the UK it's literally £1. So there's stuff like that, like specific products that can be super expensive here, and because obviously of the climate here, like a lot of meat and produce is brought in here. So I have noticed, I'm guessing the way they have to preserve certain fruit and vegetables, I feel like they're either spraying stuff, or I've just noticed like stuff can sometimes taste a little bit iffy here, or like something really random. Even yesterday I opened a tuna tin and I just thought, oh, it just doesn't taste right. And then also the meat here I found to be quite different, which is, of course, UAE chicken is going to be different to Spanish chicken, say, but I felt like when I first moved here that was something I had to adjust to. Like my body actually just had a bit of a funny reaction when I first started eating here. And then something really random that I'd never thought of, that it's actually cheaper to order food here than it is to cook, because things like chicken breast and beef, or mainly meat, are just really randomly more expensive here. Things like fish. However, you can definitely shop around and find like cheaper options, but it just completely depends. But that's just something to bear in mind, because I never really thought about that before I moved here. And I love to cook a lot. I'm always cooking from home. I don't really like ordering as much. I like to cook my meals myself. Then the next thing is making friends in Dubai. So I think it is actually one of the best places to meet new people and to make friends. I feel like I've met a lot of people through the gym, which has been amazing, and then Facebook groups like Brits in Dubai, that's a really active group, and then ATB, I think it is, ATB girls group. There is literally always someone posted in there, so if you don't know anyone, I would definitely say to join those groups and just be bold. I feel like whenever you move to a new country as well, or it's just about if you've got a friend of a friend that lives wherever you're planning to move, just message them. Don't worry, or like don't let your ego kind of get the better of you. Drop the message, like what's the worst that can happen? So I think having that mentality is super important, because otherwise you're definitely not gonna get yourself out there or like meet them new connections and friends. Another huge thing here, it kind of reminds me of like uni days. I feel like there's lots of sports groups, which is just amazing. I did a bit of beach rugby with Mason on like a Sunday morning at Kite Beach. There's so many different sports clubs there. There's loads of like netball clubs here, and I know a lot of people tend to be quite active in Dubai and join those clubs, and that's definitely a place where you could meet people. So if that's something you're worried about, I think you'll find it easier than wherever you're coming from to meet people here, but it's just about putting yourself out there. Another thing is networking is just insane here. Like I feel like, I guess whenever you do move abroad, you're meeting a certain type of person here. Like most people you meet, or like say if I'm working in a cafe, they will also be doing something similar, whether it's like they've got their own business or they're setting something up, they're a startup, and people just generally seem to be more willing to have a conversation and be a lot more open-minded. So the next thing is trying to find somewhere to live, which this is what I feel like took me such a long time, but what my approach was, and I feel like I would recommend this to someone if you're in the position to, of course, is to rent an Airbnb first. I feel like a month is a good amount of time in a location to really get the feel for somewhere, and I feel like location for me is a really important thing, because in Dubai there's a lot of sometimes construction, traffic that you really need to get your bearings about and have an understanding of, because that can be an absolute nightmare. When we actually went to some Airbnbs, we were in this place once downtown and there was construction right next door, and there was just no way you could get any sleep. And I remember just thinking, imagine if we'd have rented an apartment and not known that there was going to be building works on for the next few months. So I think finding an Airbnb or a short-term rental in an area or in a building that you like the look of or like the area, and then just checking out and really thinking, right, could I see myself living here? How's the traffic? What is it like? All these little things. We lived in JBR, downtown, the marina. Where else did we go? I don't know, I don't think we did Business Bay, but I feel like like we went to a lot of different areas, and obviously when we were on holiday as well, we kind of knew what certain areas were like. And our all-time favourite place was the Palm. I've always dreamt, like especially Mason and I always dreamt of living by the beach, and that's just been something that I've wanted to create and manifest in my life. So that was something I really liked the vibe of here. It's a lot more kind of like chilled, laid back, beachy. So we loved our time here. We spent a month in an Airbnb in February 2021, and I just absolutely could so see myself living there. It is a little bit further out and there can be sometimes traffic, but then it depends which side of like the crescent you're on. And then in terms of finding an actual apartment, I think most of them start from like a year. I think you can find 6 months contract on Property Finder, but they'll probably be at more of a premium price. So Property Finder is where we found this place, our apartment. You can also look on Facebook and see if people are renting out places and do it privately. Ask questions like, is the cooler, so the air conditioning, is that included in the price or is it additional? This is additional, and it goes on like an actual building basis, which I thought was just like per apartment. So it's not on how much like you use it. And then obviously setting up your gas and electric, that was a little bit faffy. Another thing is area wise, I feel like it's just complete personal preference. So I really like the Palm and just how like chill, beachy vibes it is. I feel like it's just got everything I kind of need here, and it's really close to get everywhere, and it's not as, I don't like too much like busyness. I like space and yeah, being able to see out. And then there's areas, Marina, which I think a lot of British people tend to move to when they first come here. That's gorgeous, and loads of like nice walking spaces, and a lot of people kind of live there as well. So I think that'd be a good place if you don't know many people, because there's always loads going on around there. And then JBR tends to be, I think that's way more of a touristy spot. That's a little bit more kind of busy. And then JVC that's like in the middle of everywhere. I don't know, I've not spent much time there. In Dubai Hills, which is super popular now, I see a lot of people moving there. I always felt like it was a little bit out there, as in a little bit felt like further out. And then you've got more family places, like I think Arabian Ranches is more family bases. So it just kind of all depends on what you're after. But I would say to just go and like try places out if you can. Go check them out, spend some time there, see what you like the feel of. There's no right or wrong way or location by any means, especially because in Dubai you can just get everywhere, or like most places, in a car. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is the weather, which is the obvious one. That has made the biggest difference, I feel like, just with my overall mental health, because it's always sunny, and the winters in Dubai are just inexplainable. They're so gorgeous and like the perfect temperature. It kind of feels a little bit like a European sort of temperature. They're like mid to late 30s, and it's not humid, and it's perfect because you can be outdoors, and I just love it. I feel like it's also a little bit busier in the winter here, and yeah, my favourite time in Dubai for absolute sure. Now let's talk about the summer, which is another reason why I'm actually leaving when I am now. So I moved here this time last year when we got our first place here, and I just underestimated probably being British and thinking, how is there such thing as too hot? And I quickly learned there is such thing as too hot. It's not even the heat here, I feel like it's the humidity, which I never thought. I always just presumed in Dubai it would be just dry heat, you know, like a sauna dry heat, not a steam room, which it's more on the steam room kind of feel. It's like stepping out and you'll just feel wet with humidity. So that is what I quickly realised, and I found last summer you couldn't really go outside that much because you step out and you'd just be like wet through. So just little stuff like I feel like I could never, my hair was always just super frizzy, and it was also quite quiet in the summertime. Like a massive thing for me is being able to be outside, outdoors. I love like walking and being outdoors, and that was just something I felt like I was having to walk on the treadmill a lot, and it was just a very different place for me. I feel like the sky isn't as blue here as well in the summer, and there is no one sort of on the beaches here. It's much quieter, and so many people actually leave, which I quickly realised a lot of people aren't here all year round. So a lot of the friends that I'd made, they left for the summer. So it was just adapting and learning, and I found that quite challenging. So I don't want to be here personally in the summer month. But then other people seem to say they absolutely love it because it's quieter in Dubai. But I just think for me, the weather was just a little bit too hot for me. So that is a massive thing that I underestimated for sure. And then also weather as well. They do this thing called cloud seeding in Dubai, which I'd never heard of before, where that's just something I learned here. And also we got this apartment with a balcony, and we don't really use it. Like we use it to put our washing out on, but we don't really sit out there that much, and especially in the summer because there's a lot of sandstorms here. It's just super sandy a lot of the time, but that's just something that I'd have never thought of. Like I always thought, oh, we'll have the doors open all the time, but even in the apartment it'd just get quite humid if we had the balcony doors open in the summer. Then the next thing I want to talk about is prices and the expense. What are the prices like here? So I would compare Dubai. I feel like it's rapidly changing. For example, rent has gone up so much. Even in a year, I've noticed when I was looking the other day, short-term rentals increased. To buy here has really increased. I don't know whether it'll level out. There's so many different price points here. Like, I feel like Dubai generally, it gets generalized as sometimes super expensive or everything's just lavish here. But I feel like there's so many different lifestyles in Dubai, and that's something I really wanted to talk about because it just depends what type of person you are, what you're into. There's like completely so many different price points if you look around, and different areas cost different prices. You can get more for your money in certain areas. I think like JVC is a good example of, you can get like a larger apartment that's more modern for a lower rate than somewhere, say, more like centrally located, if you like. And then I just wanted to share some really easy apps which are just life-changing, I feel like, if you move here. So InstaShop, which is what I use pretty much every single day for food shop deliveries. They've got all sorts on there. Viva is a really good, affordable food shopping place, and you can literally get like a food shop, it delivered in like half an hour to an hour. It's like the same price as a lot of the supermarkets. And then you've obviously got Deliveroo and Uber Eats. They're super, super quick as well. And then there's Just Life, which has every single home service going. They always have so many offers on there. So you can get home cleaning services, and that's really convenient. Then the next thing I want to mention is car hire or buying. So I didn't buy a car here because I always thought, I didn't know how, if I was to buy a car here, how would it sell? And I obviously never knew how long I would be staying for. So I have just always rented a car. I'll just do like a monthly rental thing. The name of the company I've used is called Fast Track. They'll just come and drop the car off to your location, and then you can just pay a monthly fee. You can get all kinds of cars on there. And then obviously if you prefer not to drive, you can get Ubers, and there's another app called Kareem, like similar to Uber. I feel like taxis in Dubai are generally not too expensive at all, so a lot of people don't drive here. I do quite like driving. Driving in Dubai is a whole nother thing. When I first started driving here, I was petrified, and I can really understand why you wouldn't want to drive here. Oh, I can't explain. It's so different. It's very bolshy, and I remember someone saying that indicating is a sign of weakness here, and I feel like that is just, yeah, it summarizes what driving can be like here. But I feel like I've got a lot more confident here. But the first time I remember I was driving here, and my hands, I had sweaty palms. I was just at the wheel like this. And then over time, I've got a lot more confidence. So definitely stick with it. And I think once you've been driving like a week or two, you're absolutely fine. That is definitely something to consider. And then phone contracts. I have got a contract with Virgin Mobile, and they do a dual SIM, which is really cool. So I keep my UK number for WhatsApp, and then I have my UAE number. That is, I feel like it's more expensive for data, and I feel like I'm always running out of data. That is one annoying thing. And then when it's come to things like Wi-Fi here, so I called up this morning to cancel my Wi-Fi with Etizilat. I don't think that's how you pronounce it. They have said that there's a huge cancellation fee for the box, which I remember when I actually set it up, they said that I could like give the box back and I wouldn't have to pay this fee. And there's just stuff like that. I feel like additional costs that I don't understand. I actually put a little Q&A box on my Instagram and just thought I could go through some of these. How did you find getting used to cultural differences, clothes, public affection? Clothes, I haven't felt that at all. The only time I've ever sort of had someone say anything was when I went into a government building and I had shorts that were just slightly above my knee. But generally it's so sort of, it is very westernized, but I feel like it's good to be respectful when you're in a country in general. Like I don't go walking around like in a bikini in a supermarket, if that makes sense. Like cultural differences I just completely respect. Public affection, yeah, that I do actually notice that. Like I don't really hold hands with Mason in public, but I think that actually changed. Like I don't know if that's changed, not quite sure, but I don't know, I don't really feel or like notice that as such. Then how long have you been there now? So yeah, 18 months as in having a place here, but I have travelled, like I've gone back to and from the UK in that time. So it doesn't feel like I've been here that whole stint. Do I get homesick? I've definitely got like homesick in the sense of missing my family, or like my dad rang me up the other day and he was with my brother and my nephew, and it was like a Sunday. I think they'd been for like a roast. I felt like saying, where was my invite? But obviously I'm here. But just like parts like that, I think that's probably the hardest part. Just family that I do miss, but obviously they're just a phone call away, but it's not quite the same. And then also friends and your friends that you've had for years. I definitely do miss them, but obviously people can come out and visit. And I do feel like that's another thing in Dubai. It's an amazing place that I feel like draws a lot of people too. So I feel like I've always got a friend over from the UK that I can pop and see, which is really nice. I think as well, like home will always be where the heart is. Like there are elements of home that I'll always like miss. So that is definitely a thing. Someone said, what is the temperature like in June? Too hot for a holiday? Do you know what? I think your temperature, COVID copability is just so, it's just like dependent on what type of person you are. Some people, like Mason does really well in the heat. He was still playing rugby, I think, in June last year, like early morning. Whereas like I remember going for a run at like 6 a.m. and it was just so hot and humid. So I can't really say, but yeah, it's flipping hot in June. And then someone has said, why did you decide to leave? So our tenancy was coming to an end here, and then I've really been wanting to work on a project. I've bought a property, my first proper property in the UK, to renovate it. So over the summer I wanted to go and work on that, and then I don't know whether maybe we'll come back here in the winter time, but like I say, after the last summer here, I don't want to be here in those specific months, and that is what my plan is. But yeah, overall I have absolutely loved my time here. I feel like I've had some of my real happy moments here. I've also had some real sad moments, and I did want to mention as well, I think you can't ever put your happiness on a location or think that moving to a location is going to fix something. I think it's always what you're doing day to day, what's going on inside your head that's going to create that happiness for you. It's not whether the sun's shining, because I remember last summer I was going to, I feel like, a lot of things in my own head, and I remember it was bright blue skies and I was thinking, how is it possible to feel so low when it's like blue skies out? And I felt almost like, how do I have the right to feel like this? And it's so not to do with the location, it's definitely all what you're doing. But yeah, Dubai, I absolutely love it here. I feel, like I say, so many emotions right now, but maybe we'll come back in the winter. I don't quite know yet. I'm just gonna see where it all goes from here, but it definitely feels like I've made a home, like another base and another home, and I've made some really good connections here. I feel like I've learned so much and grown a lot. But yeah, I really hope this video has been useful. I hope you've enjoyed this one. I'm planning to do some moving vlogs, so I can mention some more bits in there, so definitely check out my next future videos. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.